The waves crashed like accusations against the shore, each one pulling back secrets I'd buried deeper than the tide could reach. Finn's hand trembled in mine as we stood there, the salt air thick with the promise of summer's end in Crescent Bay, California, a place where the ocean whispered lies to the lonely. Then he turned, his eyes locking onto mine with a fire I'd never seen, and whispered, "Dad, I'm in love with him," before leaning in not to me, but to the shadow of a man emerging from the surf, their lips meeting in a kiss that shattered the fragile world I'd built around us both. That moment hung suspended, the sun bleeding orange across the horizon like spilled paint on a canvas I'd long ago folded away. Finn Harlan, my only son, 22 and forged from the same restless clay as his mother and me, had just handed me the truth I'd dodged for decades. The man he kissed, Elias Thorne, with his sun-kissed olive skin and a laugh that carried over the breakers like a siren's call, was no stranger. I'd seen him before, sketching driftwood portraits at the edge of the tide pools, his gaze lingering a beat too long on mine during those rare mornings when grief dragged me out here to stare at nothing. Now as Finn pulled back, flushed and defiant, Elias's eyes met mine over my son's shoulder, and in that electric silence, I felt the ground tilt. Who was I, Wyatt Harlan, the widowed architect who designed half the beachfront homes in this sleepy coastal town, if not a man running from the shape of his own desires? The kiss wasn't just Finn's coming out, it was the key turning in a lock I'd rusted shut, and as the three of us stood there, waves lapping at our ankles, my world didn't just flip, it dissolved into the foam. I stumbled back a step, the sand sucking at my heels like it wanted to claim me whole. Finn's face crumpled, that boyish grin I'd watched bloom from scraped knees and little league triumphs twisting into something raw, exposed. "Dad," he said, voice cracking like the shells underfoot. "Say something, please." Elias hovered, respectful but unyielding, his wet hair dripping rivulets down a chest marked by faint tattoos, anchors and stars, metaphors for the storms he'd weathered, I guessed. He was 35 maybe, with the easy confidence of someone who'd claimed his skin early, unlike me, who'd spent 48 years papering over the cracks. What could I say? That the sight of their mouths touching had stirred something primal in me, a heat low in my gut that had nothing to do with fatherly pride and everything to do with envy? Or that it ripped open the scar tissue from losing Clara, my wife of 20 years, to that sudden aneurysm 3 summers ago. A death so clean, so final, it left me adrift in our cliffside house overlooking the bay, blueprints scattered like confetti from a party I never wanted. Finn had been my anchor then, the kid who dropped out of his Seattle art program to come home, to hammer nails into walls I redesigned in fits of mania. We'd rebuilt each other, or so I thought, through late-night talks on the porch and dawn walks like this one, where the Pacific stretched endless, forgiving. But forgiveness? That was a joke. As Elias extended a hand, strong, callous from wet carving wood or climbing rocks, I shook it mechanically, my palm slick with more than seawater. "Wyatt," he said, voice low and steady, like the rumble of thunder over the hills. "Finn's told me about you. The houses you build. They're poetry. Poetry. Christ, if he only knew the sonnets I'd silenced, the sketches of male forms I'd burned in the fireplace after Clara's funeral, convinced they were grief's fever dreams." We trudged up the beach toward the weathered boardwalk of Crescent Bay, the town waking slow under a sky bruised purple. Finn walked between us, chattering about how he'd met Elias at a gallery opening in San Francisco. Elias, the sculptor whose driftwood installations captured the bay's wild heart. "He's moving here," Finn said, glancing at me sideways, testing. "To be with me. If that's okay." Okay. The word lodged in my throat like a bone. Our home, that sprawling A-frame I'd poured my soul into after Clara, had room for ghosts but not for this. This mirror held up to the man I'd pretended to be. By the time we reached the coffee shack at the pier's end, the hook of the morning had sunk deep. I ordered black coffee, strong as regret, and watched them from the splintered railing. Finn's head on Elias's shoulder, their fingers laced like vines. A fisherman hauled his net nearby, cursing the empty haul, and I envied his straightforward fury. Mine was a storm without lightning, all cloud and no release. How many times had I lain awake, staring at the ceiling beams I'd hewn myself, wondering if the ache for touch, for a body that matched the rhythm of mine, was betrayal. Clara had been my college sweetheart, soft and certain, The girl who made sense in a world that didn't. But in quiet moments, like when we drive the Pacific Coast Highway with Finn strapped in the back, I'd steal glances at the surfers, their lithe forms slicing the waves, and feel a pull that shamed me silent. "Dad!" Finn's voice pulled me back. They were at the table now, Elias sketching idly on a napkin, a rough outline of the three of us entangled in waves. "You zoning out on us?" I forced a smile, the kind that fooled clients into signing contracts for million-dollar views. "Just thinking about breakfast. Pancakes." It was our ritual, father-son mornings before the world intruded. But as Elias nodded, eager to join, I saw the fracture lines spreading. This wasn't just about Finn anymore. It was about the son I'd raised in my image, only to discover the image was flawed. The walk home wound through eucalyptus groves, their leaves rustling like old letters. Crescent Bay clung to the cliffs like a secret, a town of 3,000 souls where retirees sipped Chardonnay on verandas and artists like Elias washed up like treasures from the deep. My firm Harlan Designs had put it on the map. Eco-homes that hugged the land, windows framing the eternal blue. Success, they called it. Stability. But stability was a cage, gilded with salt air and solitude. Inside the house, the scent of Clara lingered. Lavender from her soaps faint still in the linens. Finn vanished to shower, leaving Elias and me in the kitchen, the ocean visible through floor-to-ceiling glass. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed, studying me with those dark eyes. "Finn worries about you," he said finally. "Says you've been caring too much since his mom." I busied myself with eggs, cracking shells with more force than needed. "He's a good kid. Always has been." Elias stepped closer, not invading but close enough I caught his scent, sea and cedar. "He's more than that. And so are you, Wyatt. I can see it." "See it?" The words landed like a wave breaking over rocks. I turned, spatula in hand, and for a heartbeat our gazes held. A bridge over the chasm I'd dug. Then Finn bounded in, towel around his neck, breaking the spell. "Smells amazing. Elias, you gotta try Dad's omelets. They're legendary." Laughter filled the space, light and illusory. But as we ate on the deck, forks scraping plates to the symphony of gulls, I felt the shift. Finn's hand on Elias's knee under the table, casual, claiming. My own hands, empty, clenched around the possibility of more. That afternoon, while they explored the tide pools, Finn's sketchbook in hand, Elias pointing out anemones like old friends, I retreated to my office. Blueprints sprawled across the desk. A new commission, a seaside retreat for a tech mogul from the valley. Lines sharp, angles precise. But my pencil wandered, tracing curves that weren't beams or arches. Shoulders, jawlines, the arc of a back against sunset. I crumpled it, heart pounding, and drove into town instead. The hardware store on Elm Street, run by Old Man Carver, was my confessional of sorts, nails and paint masking deeper needs. Carver nodded as I loaded lumber for a porch repair. "Heard your boy's back. And with company." Gossip traveled faster than fog here. "Yeah," I muttered. "Good company." He clapped my shoulder, eyes twinkling. "Life's too short for straight lines, Harlan. Bend a little." Bend. The word echoed as I hauled the wood home, the truck's engine growling my unrest. Dusk found us on the deck again, beers in hand, the fire pit crackling against the chill. Finn regaled Elias with stories of our rebuild. The storm that flooded the basement, the night we laughed through tears framing walls by lantern light. Elias listened, rapt, then shared his own. Growing up in the dusty flats of New Mexico, carving escape from mesquite branches, fleeing a family that saw his art as sin. "They didn't get it," he said, voice soft. "The way creation pulls you toward truth." Finn squeezed his hand. "But you found your way here. To us." The word expanded, inclusive yet excluding. I sipped my beer, the bitterness grounding me, and watched the flames dance shadows across their faces. Finn's eyes, so like Clara's, wide, unguarded, now held a peace I'd never given him. Pride swelled, tangled with loss. What father teaches his son to embrace what he himself fears? As stars pricked the velvet sky, Elias rose to fetch more wood, leaving Finn and me in the glow. "Dad," he started, hesitant. "I know this is a lot, but feels right." "Elias, he sees me." I nodded, throat tight. "He does. And you deserve that. A pause heavy as the tide. What about you? When's the last time you let someone see you? The question pierced surgical. I looked out at the black water, endless. Long time ago, kid. Longer than you know. Elias returned, arms full, and the moment passed. But as night deepened, the house hummed with their whispers from the guest room. Soft laughs, murmurs of affection that twisted the knife of my isolation. I lay in the master, Clara's side a void, and let the what-ifs crash over me. What if I'd met Elias first in another life? What if Finn's courage was the spark to ignite my own? Dawn would come, relentless, and with it the unraveling. For now I drifted on the edge of sleep, the beach's promise echoing. Flip or drown. The morning after broke gray. Fog rolling in from the channel like a shroud over unspoken confessions. I woke to the clatter of pans, Finn in the kitchen attempting biscuits, Elias at his side with that easy grace, flipping strips of bacon that sizzled like suppressed fire. Crescent Bay's marine layer muffled the world, turning the bay into a ghost of itself, and I lingered in the doorway, watching them move in sync. Finn's awkward enthusiasm, Elias's steady hand guiding his. It was domestic, profound, a tableau that both soothed and stung. How had my son, the boy who'd once built forts from couch cushions to shield us from storms, grown into this man claiming his heart so boldly? Coffee's on, Finn called, spotting me. His smile was tentative, probing for cracks. I crossed the room, ruffling his damp hair like old times, habit armor. Smells like victory. Or arson. Elias chuckled, plating food with care, his forearms flexing under the weight of the tongs. Those arms, corded from labor, drew my eye longer than they should. I busied myself pouring coffee, black and scalding, letting the steam veil my flush. Breakfast stretched lazy, stories weaving through bites. Elias spoke of his latest piece. A massive installation for the town's summer festival. Driftwood twisted into lovers embracing against a storm. It's about holding on when the waves want to pull you under, he said, eyes flicking to Finn then me. The metaphor landed heavy. I nodded, fork scraping ceramic. Finn beamed. Dad, you should see his studio. It's in that old cannery down by the docks, total magic. Magic. The word conjured childhood trips with Clara to San Francisco's wharves, Finn tiny on my shoulders pointing at seals. We'd laughed then, uncomplicated. Now, as Elias described the space, raw beams, salt-crusted windows overlooking the harbor, I felt a pull irrational toward that chaos of creation. Maybe I'll swing by, I said, surprising myself. Finn's face lit. Yes. Today. The fog lifted by noon, burning off to reveal the bay's turquoise heart. I dropped them at the pier, Finn for his part-time gig at the bookstore, Elias to his studio, and drove the winding coast road to my office. Harlan Designs occupied a converted lighthouse keeper's cottage on the bluff, its circular walls a nod to the sea's curve. Inside, interns buzzed over models, but I retreated to the drafting table, lines blurring under my hand. Instead of the mogul's retreat, I sketched Elias's cannery. Arches of exposed pipe like veins, light spilling through fractures in the brick. A call shattered the reverie. Mrs. Langford, the Historical Society's chair, her voice tart as unripe persimmon. Wyatt, darling, we need your touch on the old Harlan homestead. Before the developers swoop in. The Harlan homestead. My grandfather's place up in the hills, a rambling Victorian I'd inherited and ignored, its eaves sagging under vines like forgotten regrets. On it, I promised, though the thought soured my gut. That house held bones. My father's stern silences, my mother's quiet unraveling after he left for the bottle and beyond. And me, a teen hiding dog-eared novels under the floorboards, stories of men who loved fiercely, forbidden fruits I devoured in secret. By late afternoon, I found myself there anyway, the road climbing through redwoods that whispered of permanence. The house loomed, paint peeling like scabs, windows blind with dust. I stepped inside, the air thick with mildew and memory. The parlor, where Grandpa Harlan had carved whittled birds for me, now echoed empty. Upstairs, my old room. Posters faded, bed frame scarred from jumps. In the closet, ironic that I found the box. Letters yellowed. A journal spine cracked. My hands trembled as I opened it. 18-year-old scrawl spilling out. Saw him at the diner today. JT with his leather jacket and that smile. God, what if? JT Jackson Tate, the summer I turned 17, working the gas station on Route 1. Our eyes met over pump hoses, conversations stretching from weather to dreams. One night, under the stars by the lighthouse, his hand brushed mine, electric, terrifying. We never crossed that line. Fear one. He left for college, I for architecture school, and the what-ifs calcified. Now, flipping pages, Elias's face superimposed over JT's, the parallels gutted me. Finn's kiss on the beach hadn't just outed him. It had outed the ghost I'd buried. Dusk caught me there, journal clutched like a talisman. Driving back, the bay glittered under street lamps, Finn's text lighting my phone. Dinner at Elias's? Bring wine. I detoured to the market, selecting a Cabernet from Napa, bold, layered like the man it was for. The cannery district hummed with afterwork energy. Fishermen mending nets, artists spilling from lofts. Elias's studio door hung open, light pouring like invitation. Inside, chaos reigned, beautiful. Sculptures half-formed, tools scattered like stars. Finn lounged on a dropcloth, sketching Elias at work, chisels flying, wood yielding to his will. They looked up, welcoming, and I handed over the bottle, our fingers brushing. Bark. This place, I said, gesturing. It's alive. Elias wiped sawdust from his hands, grinning. Wanna try? He pressed a mallet into my palm, guiding me to a log. Our shoulders touched, heat blooming. I swung, wood chipping under the blow, and for a moment the world narrowed to rhythm. Strike, breathe, feel. Dinner followed on a makeshift table. Grilled fish from the docks, bread warm from the bakery, wine loosening tongues. Stories flowed. Finn's college escapades, my early designs that flopped spectacularly, Elias's New Mexico youth, where he'd hidden sketches from a father's belt. Laughter bridged gaps, but under it tension simmered. When Finn excused himself to the loft's bathroom, Elias leaned in. You're good with him, Wyatt. Real good. But who's good with you? Direct, disarming. I met his gaze, pulse thundering. Haven't figured that out yet. Finn returned, oblivious or not, and we cleared plates to music. Old vinyl from Elias's collection, Springsteen crooning of highways and hearts. Dancing started spontaneous. Finn pulling Elias into a sway, their bodies fitting like puzzle edges. I watched from the sidelines, beer in hand, until Elias extended an arm. Your turn, Harlan. Half joke, half dare. I stepped in, awkward, his hand at my waist light as fog. We moved, clumsy at first, then sinking, chest to chest, breath mingling with salt and sweat. Finn clapped from the couch, cheering, but his eyes held questions. The night ended with promises. Festival prep tomorrow, all three of us. Driving home, Finn shotgun, he turned. You like him, don't you? Elias. Simple, loaded. He's solid, I evaded. For you. A beat. And for you too, maybe. If you're ready. The words hung, fog closing in. Ready. For what? Truth touched the terror of both. Sleep evaded me that night, the journal's echoes mingling with Elias's scent on my shirt, a phantom trace. Crescent Bay slept, but I burned, the flip irreversible now, pulling me under. Weeks blurred into the festival's frenzy, Crescent Bay swelling with tourists chasing autumn's last warmth. Strings of lights draped the pier, booths hawking clam chowder and handmade jewelry, the air electric with fiddle music and fry oil haze. Elias's installation dominated the green. Towering lovers in driftwood, arms entwined against abstract waves, lit from below to cast shadows like embracing ghosts. Critics from San Francisco buzzed, calling it a testament to coastal resilience. But I saw more, the raw vulnerability in the knots, the way one figure leaned trusting into the storm. Finn threw himself into it, coordinating volunteers, his energy infectious. I'd catch him between shifts, sketching details, Elias's influence sharpening his lines. This is us, he'd say, pointing to the sculpture's heart. The word expanded daily, pulling me in. Mornings I'd find them on the deck. Coffee steaming, heads bent over plans, and join the trio solidifying. Elias's presence wove subtle. A shared glance over blueprints, his boot nudging mine under the table. Touches accidental, mounting like tide. But cracks spidered beneath. At the office, whispers slithered. Mrs. Langford's bridge club, eyes sharp over teacups. Your boys brought home quite the artist, she'd coo on calls, subtext laced with small-town venom. Such modern sensibilities. I brushed it off, focusing on the homestead reno. Surveys showing termite rot, estimates ballooning. The place needed gutting much like me. One evening, alone in its dust, I pried up floorboards, finding not just my old journal, but letters from JT postmarked from college. "Miss the stars with you," one read. "The almosts haunt me." Heart hammering, I pocketed them, the past bleeding into now. Elias invited me to the studio solo one twilight. Finn tied up at the bookstore. "Need a second opinion," he said, voice casual over the phone. The cannery loomed, doors ajar, his silhouette haloed by welder's sparks. Inside he worked a new piece, smaller, intimate, 2 hands palm to palm, wood grains merging. "For Finn," he explained, but his eyes said otherwise. I circled it, critiquing angles, our shoulders brushing as he adjusted. "It's honest," I murmured. "Exposed." He set down tools, wiping hands on jeans faded to gray. "Like you." The air thickened, charged. "What do you mean?" Elias stepped closer, cedar and sweat enveloping. "The way you hold back, Wyatt. Like you're afraid the wood will splinter if you swing too hard." His fingers grazed my arm, light, questioning. I froze, pulse roaring, JT's letters burning in my pocket. Then yielding, I leaned in, our lips meeting, tentative then fierce. Salt and need, decades dissolving in that kiss. It was revelation, ruin, his hands framing my face, mine clutching his shirt, the studio spinning. We broke apart, gasping, foreheads pressed. "Fuck." I whispered the word raw. Elias smiled, soft. "Yeah." No regret, just truth hanging. But guilt crashed after, Finn's face flashing, the betrayal implicit. I pulled away. We can't." His eyes dimmed, understanding. "For now." I fled to the truck, driving blind through dusk, the bay a black mirror reflecting my fracture. Home was empty, Finn at a late shift. I paced the deck, waves mocking below. Phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Wyatt. It's Carver from the store. Heard about the homestead. And other things. Meet tomorrow? Coffee 7 a.m. Dread coiled. Carver with his twinkling eyes, but now? The next morning, Pier Shack, he slid across a mug, face grave. "Town talk, son. Your boy and that sculptor folks are saying it's unnatural. And you enabling." He trailed, implication clear. "They're coming for the historical society vote on your projects." Leverage. Betrayal hit like a rogue wave. Not just gossip, weaponized. Who? Langford's circle, old money guarding their picket fences. I stormed her office that day. Victorian facade hiding venom. "This ends," I said, door slamming. She arched a brow, pearls clutched. "Wyatt dear, it's concern. For Finn. 4 Crescent Bays. Values. Values. Code for fear. My son's happiness isn't your crusade." She smiled thin. "Nor is your little secret. JT Tate? We remember." The words eviscerated. "How?" Whispers from decades ago dredged up. I left shaking, driving to the beach, our beach. Waves pounded, foam hissing recriminations. Finn found me there hours later, sketchpad tucked under arm. "Dad? Elias said you bailed early." I looked up, sand caked on knees. "Rough day." He sat shoulder to mine. "Talk." The dam cracked. I told him bits, the kiss unspoken, but the town's teeth bared. His face hardened. "They're assholes. We fight." That night, dinner tense. Elias sensing the storm, Finn defiant. Over pasta, he announced, "I'm telling everyone." At the festival opening. Pride warred with terror. Elias nodded. Together. Their hands linked. Mine clenched fork. After, as they retreated, Elias lingered in the hall. "Whatever it is, Wyatt. I'm here." His palm on my chest steady. I covered it, holding. "I know." Sleep came fitful, dreams of driftwood lovers crumbling under waves. Dawn brought resolve. The homestead a symbol now. I rallied crew, hammering boards with fury. Each nail a stake in silence's grave. But the town coiled tighter, subtle sabotages. Permit delays, anonymous calls to the firm. Finn's boss at the bookstore pulled him aside. Concerned about distractions. Elias's grant application leaked. Question for lifestyle. The breaking point crested midweek. A package arrived at the office. Photos grainy me and Elias in the studio, lips locked, time-stamped. Enclosed note. Choose your career or their scandal. Anonymous, but Langford's perfume clung faint. Rage boiled. I drove to the cannery, bursting in on Elias mid-carve. They know. Words tumbled, the kiss, the threat, the past. He set down chisel, pulling me close. Then we own it. His mouth claimed mine again, deliberate, erasing doubt. We sank to the dropcloth, hands exploring, slow, reverent. Shirts shed, skin to skin, his tattoos mapping trails under my fingers. It was undoing rebirth. Gasps echoing off bricks, bodies sinking like tide to moon. After tangled in sweat-damp canvas, he traced my jaw. No more hiding. I nodded, chest heaving. But Finn, God, Finn. We dressed, resolve stealing, and I confessed over phone. Come to the studio. Now. His arrival was quiet shock, then embrace. Dad. I knew. Felt it. No judgment, just love, fierce, unyielding. The three of you stood, a knot unbreakable, plotting our stand. The festival loomed, crescendo building. Crescent Bay held its breath. I held mine, the flip complete, world remade in salt and starlight. The festival eve descended like a held breath. Crescent Bay pulsing under lantern glow. Rehearsals choked the pier. Fiddlers tuning, vendors haggling, Elias's installation spotlit like a sentinel. Volunteers swarmed, mostly allies, but eyes darted, whispers slithering like eels in the chowder steam. Finn moved among them, clipboard in hand, his chin lifted in quiet rebellion. I'd watched him evolve these weeks. From tentative glances to bold proclamations in group chats, tagging Elias with heart emojis that once would have hidden. Pride swelled, bittersweet. He'd inherited my build, my hazel eyes, but none of my cowardice. Elias and I navigated, careful, touches veiled. A hand on the small of my back in passing crowds, his laugh pulling me from dark corners. Nights blurred into stolen hours. After Finn slept, we'd meet at the studio, bodies mapping new territories. His skin, warm olive under my palms, told stories of deserts and determination. Mine, fair and scarred from construction falls, yielded secrets long guarded. You're beautiful, he'd murmur post-climax, fingers tracing collarbones, and I'd believe it if only in the afterglow. But dawn brought the grind. Blueprints redrawn around delays. Langford society stalling permits with ethical reviews. The homestead became my fortress, crews working overtime under floodlights. I poured into it, ripping out rot, installing skylights that poured starlight into rooms once dim. One night, hammer paused, I found Elias there unannounced, toolbox in hand. Thought you could use muscle. We worked side by side, shirts clinging in the humid dark, banter flowing easy. Sweat mixed with sawdust. When our eyes met over a beam, he tugged me into the shadowed alcove. Kiss urgent, hands roaming. Against the wall, quick and desperate, release came fierce. His name a gasp on my lips. Love this, he panted after. Us. Messy real. Love. The word hovered unclaimed. But betrayal's shadow lengthened. Carver cornered me at the market next day, face ashen. Wyatt, it's worse. Langford's rallying the council. Wants your firm blacklisted. Citing moral conflicts for public projects. Moral. The gall. And Finn. Someone slashed his tires at the bookstore. Fury ignited. I raced there, finding him calm amid chaos, Elias already patching rubber. Kid's prank. Finn shrugged, but his eyes betrayed hurt. We towed the car home, silence heavy on the drive. That evening, over takeout burritos on the deck, Finn broke it. We go public tomorrow. All of us. Elias nodded, hand over mine under the table. Unseen but anchor. Speech at the opening. Elias unveils, you follow. I balked, gut twisting. The town. They'll crucify us. Finn's gaze pierced. Or they'll see love's not a threat. Yours included. Mine. Admitting it aloud to them, to the crowd, felt like leaping without net. But their faith steadied me. Later, alone with Elias in the guest room. Finn crashed early, we lay entwined, his head on my chest. Scared, he whispered. Terrified, I admitted. But with you. Possible. His fingers trailed lower, reigniting embers. Slow this time, exploratory. Mouth savoring, bodies arching in sync. Climax built like waves, cresting in shared shudders, his release warm against my thigh. Stay, I breathed. He did, dawn finding us tangled, the first fracture mended. Opening night crackled. Crowds 3 deep, Mayor droning welcomes. Elias took the stage, spotlights gilding his form. Jeans worn, shirt untucked, mallet in hand for the ceremonial strike. This piece, he began, voice carrying over murmurs, is for the ones who hold on. Through storms, judgments, the pull of what's proper. He struck wood, parting with a crack like thunder. Applause rippled but undercurrents stirred. Hisses from the back where Langford held court, pearls gleaming like teeth. Finn followed, climbing steps with artist's poise. Crescent Bay's my home. Elias is my heart. And Dad. He turned to me in the wings, eyes shining. He's our rock, teaching me courage, even when it's hard. The crowd shifted, some cheering, others stone-faced. Then my cue, legs leaden, heart hammering. I gripped the mic, ocean wind whipping. This town built me. But love? That's what rebuilds us. Pause, breath ragged. Finn's truth freed him. Elias's art frees us all. And mine. Eyes found Elias's in the front row, steady. Mine's loving a man who sees me whole. Gasps rippled, flashes popping like gunfire. Langford bolted, skirts rustling, exodus. Chaos erupted. Cheers from youth, boos from elders. Finn hugged me on stage, fierce. Elias joined, arms enveloping us both. A tableau unbreakable. But as lights dimmed, a figure approached, J.T. Tate. Graying but unmistakable, fedora tipped. Heard the commotion. Came from Portland. Shock rooted me. How? He smiled wry. Small towns, Wyatt. Secrets travel. Over festival ale later, stories spilled. His life, a quiet marriage to a woman who knew. Then widowhood, regrets. Should have stayed that summer. Handshake lingered, absolution. Yet backlash crested overnight. Council emails flooded. Project halts, boycott calls. The firm teetered, interns jumping ship, clients waffling. Finn's tires weren't a prank. Vandalism escalated, gallery windows smashed. Elias's grant? Denied. Community standards. We hunkered, a unit. Barricading the studio, redesigning the homestead as hybrid space. Gallery below, our home above. Nights we'd collapse together. Finn on the couch, Elias and I in bed, bodies seeking solace. One such, after a threat scrawled on our door, Elias held me through tears. We'll weather it. His touch turned tender, then urgent. Legs entwining, rhythms building to cathartic release, cries muffled in pillows. Dawn brought plans, lawyers, allies, a counter-petition circling petitions. The climax brewed at council meeting, town hall packed like sardines. Langford testified first, voice quivering. This agenda threatens our fabric. Harlan's hypocrisy. Widower pretending piety while she waved photos, the kiss blown up on easel. Murmurs swelled. I rose, Elias and Finn flanking. Fabric? This town's woven from immigrants, dreamers, folks who bent, not broke. Voices joined. Carver, fist raised, young artists chanting. Jit even from the back. Let love build, not tear. Votes swung narrow, projects greenlit, vandals fined. Langford slunk out, defeated. But victory tasted ash. Scars lingered. Finn landed a fellowship in Seattle, tearful goodbye on the beach, Elias staying for me. We'll visit, he promised, hugging tight. JT lingered too. Coffee dates forging tentative friendship, bridges over chasms. Months later, homestead unveiled. Gala buzzing, sculptures gleaming under chandeliers I'd hung. Elias's hand in mine, public now as we toasted. Finn called from afar, voice proud. The flip complete, world not just righted but richer. Waves carrying compassion's song. Freedom tasted like salt, identity like home. Winter softened Crescent Bay's edges. Rains pattering the homestead's new tin roof like hesitant applause. The Reno had transformed it. Lower floors a co-op gallery. Walls hung with Elias's driftwood and Finn's sketches. Soldiering on via video calls from Seattle, where his art bloomed unchecked. Upstairs our space. Open plan loft with bay views. Bed alcoved by bookshelves groaning under architecture tomes and queer lit I'd finally cracked. Elias moved in gradual. First a chisel here, a sculpture there. Until his New Mexico boots scarred the floors beside mine. Mornings ritualized. Coffee brewing as gulls wheeled, his body curling spoon-like against me. Waking to his breath on my neck, hand low on hip, lazy strokes building to morning urgency, gasps fogging windows. Morning builder. He'd tease post-release, nipping my shoulder. I'd laugh, pulling him closer. The intimacy mundane yet miraculous. No more shadows, just us, light pouring through. The firm stabilized, projects flowing, sustainable homes dotting the coast, each with a Harlan clause. Inclusive design, spaces for all loves. Clients trickled back, some apologetic, others curious. Carver became unofficial consigliere, funneling tips on council whispers. Langford faded to bridge luncheons, her barbs dulled by time's tide. JT visited often, our coffees evolving to hikes, stories of almost filling silences, his companionship a gentle echo, not rival. But undercurrents stirred. Finn's calls carried undertones. Miss you guys. Seattle's great, but homesick or more. One weekend he drove down unannounced, duffel slung, eyes shadowed. Break up, he confessed over porch beers, Elias's arm around him. Guy couldn't handle the distance, or Dad's spotlight. Guilt stabbed. My coming out had rippled, waves lapping his shores. We rallied. Bonfire on the beach, Esmeralda and Springsteen, JT joining with guitar. Songs wove us. Finn's voice cracking on Thunder Road, Elias harmonizing low. Later, as embers died, Finn pulled me aside. Proud of you, Dad, for flipping the script. Hug tight, tears saltier than sea. Spring unfurled green, festival redux drawing crowds unmarred by malice. Elias's new show, Tides of Truth, pieces evolving lovers through seasons, spring tender, winter scarred but entwined. Critics raved. Sales funded expansions. One piece private commission. Our hands grains merged hung in the loft. For the flip, he said, unveiling it candlelit. That night lovemaking deepened. Slow explorations, his mouth charting paths anew. My surrender total. Whispers of love you, escaped, first from him then me, echoed in climaxes that bound souls. Yet conflict crested subtle. A letter from Clara's sister, Aunt Mara, postmarked Austin. Wyatt Finn wrote, this phase, for his sake reconsider. Phase. The word ignited old furies. I drafted replies, measured then scorched, settling on truth. Love isn't phase, it's foundation. Elias read it, nodding. Send. We're solid. Mara visited eventual, tentative tea on the deck. Finn mediated, her eyes softening at our ease. Elias's hand in mine casual. Clara would have wanted happiness, she conceded, hugging goodbye. Bridge mended, fragile but forward. Summer scorched, projects peaking. A community center, rainbow flag fluttering defiant. Groundbreaking photo op. Us three Finn home, JT grinning sidelines, shovels raised. Press swarmed, headlines kind. Crescent Bay's Harlan trio building bridges. But private storms brewed. Elias withdrew one July Eve, studio locked. Doubts, he admitted over wine. This life, your world now. Am I enough? Echoes of his past, belt-raised fears. I knelt before him, hands framing face. More than. You're the wave that flipped me right. Lovemaking followed urgent, reclaiming. Bodies slick, rhythms fierce, his cries affirming trust. After tangled, he whispered, marry me. Heart stuttered, yes, breathless. Proposal rippled. Finn whooping via FaceTime, JT toasting at the lighthouse. Town buzzed benign, potluck invites, not pitchforks. Ceremony small. Beach at dawn, waves officiating, JT best man. Vows simple. Through storms I choose you. Rings wood inlaid, grains eternal. Finn's art graced invitations. Aunt Mara attended teary. Fall harvest brought harvest of peace. Gallery thriving, firm expanding hires. Queer architects drawn to our ethos. Finn dated steady, a barista with ink and ambition. Elias's solo show in Frisco beckoned, nerves jangling. Go, I urged, kissing departure. Shine. He did, returning laureled. Us tumbling into bed celebratory. Laughter to moans, love's language fluent. One winter solstice, full moon silvering the bay. We walked the beach, footprints mingling. Finn joined, arm linked. Flipped worlds, he mused. All of us. Elias squeezed my hand. And remade better. Stars wheeled, ocean eternal. Compassion's tide. We'd learned it in fractures, carried it in wholeness. Freedom not given but claimed, bony beating hearts against the pull. Years folded like sails in harbor calm, Crescent Bay etching deeper into our bones. The homestead stood sentinel, gallery walls rotating exhibits. Finn's visit seating collaborations, his Seattle studio a mirror to Elias's. Now 28, he'd carved a name. Coastal abstracts, galleries from Portland to Monterey clamoring. Dad's influence. He'd quip, but it was his fire unquenched. We'd visit biannual, crashing his loft amid hipster haunts, toasting with IPAs to flips that stick. Elias and I wed 5 autumns, navigated marriage's swells. His wanderlust pulling to residencies. Taos one spring where I joined, sketching adobes while he carved canyons. Fights flared rare. Over my workaholic lapses, his silences post-rejection, but mended in familiar rites. Beach walks dissecting, then bed reclaiming, bodies versed in forgiveness's arch. At 49 I softened lines, crow's feet framing smiles genuine. Salt hair fully silvered. Elias 40 held vigor. Tattoos fading faint but touch electric still. Aging like whiskey. He'd growl mid-thrust, drawing laughs that dissolved to gasps. The firm evolved. Harlan Thorne Designs, Eco Havens. In California. Each project a manifesto. Affordable units for artists, queer youth centers with bay views. JT consulted part-time, his draftsman hand steadying my visions. Widowed twice now, his wife 5 years gone. He'd found quiet joy in mentorship, our friendship a steady burn. You flipped first, he'd say over peer coffees. Gave me permission. Town transformed gradual. Langford past gentle will donating to arts, redemption's whisper. Her successors championed inclusivity. Pride flags on lampposts year-round. Vandals? Faded myths, youth now volunteering at festivals, rainbow pins glinting. Yet humanity's core tested us. Elias's diagnosis came midsummer, 7 years post-flip. Pancreatic stage 3 shadow swift. Fuck. He rasped in the doctor's sterile glow, hand crushing mine. Finn flew down instant, face ashen. We rallied, trials in San Francisco, alternative shakes from Mara's recipes. Nights I'd hold him through fevers, his body frail but fierce. Not done carving yet. Lovemaking shifted tender, caresses over chemo haze, climaxes soft waves not tempests. Love you deeper, he'd murmur, eyes fierce. Finn anchored emotional. Art therapy sessions, sketches of us 3 eternal. JT hauled wood for a final sculpture. Elias directing weak-voiced. Lovers against the end. Unveiled bedside, it watched our vigils. Council paused projects. Town sent meals, cards, compassion's tide earned reciprocal. Winter gripped as he weakened, bay storms mirroring. One dawn, snow rare dusting cliffs, he woke lucid. Beach, he demanded. We wheeled him down, Finn pushing me, steadying, waves greeting gentle. Salt air filled lungs, he gripped our hands. Flipped right. You both my worlds. Eyes closed, breath easing. He slipped midday, our arms cradling, sunset gilding his peace. Grief hollowed initial. Studio silent, bed vast. Finn stayed months, we haunting dunes, words sparse. JT filled gaps, hikes, silences shared. Spring coaxed green, I carved tentative. A small piece, hands unpracticed, Elias's mallet warm. Finn framed it gallery. Wyatt's turn. Healing layered. Firm thrived. Elias's legacy and scholarships for queer artists. Finn partnered solid, wedding us officiating, vows echoing ours beachside. I dated cautious, a potter named Reed, gentle eyes, hands clay strong, but Elias's ghost benevolent, not jealous. Decade post-flip, I walked the shore solo often, Finn's kids now, twin boys, wild-haired, toddling sands. Grandpa's beach, they chant, shells clutched. Elias's sculpture stood pure end, weathered but entwined. I trace grains, whispering thanks. World flipped. No expanded, waves carrying Traken's lesson. Love's not possession but permission to feel free fully. At 60, silver fully claimed, I designed legacies. Community homes, windows framing truths. Finn's art spanned coasts. His family our extension. JT retired beside me, tales for grandkids. Betrayals? Faded footnotes. Romance? Reed's hand in mine, new rhythms budding. One eve, full moon again, Finn joined, kids I bet. He'd be proud, he said, arms slung. I nodded, throat full. We all are. Stars pricked. Ocean hummed. Dew six lingered. Compassion's quiet power. Freedom's hard-won bend. Identity's endless shore. Human flawed afloat.